I am joined for the second time in not too long by Mr. Tim Jupp. Hello.
Hello, good to be back again.
Yes, we are post Big Church Festival 2024, which is very exciting. I had a fantastic time, my first ever proper music festival. My family loved it. What's have you got like a brief summer? How did you find this year's Big Church Festival?
I think we had a great year. We were really encouraged, really excited. We know lots of people came for the first time, which is always really exciting. I think what we realised is it has taken us 3 years to get back to any sort of, I guess, normal, whatever that means, post-COVID, really. I think I hadn't realised that. We never knew what the impact COVID would have on us at the time, and nor did we know that it'd take 3 years to kind of fully recover. But it feels like we're back on track, and I think from a vision point of view, really exciting because it's growing with young people, particularly growing with diversity more than ever, and that's just really exciting for us. And I think growing with people bringing their friends who aren't Christians, and that's really great.
I think I saw the numbers. Was it 26,000? Was a sort of a final count?
I think we're about 25,000 this year,
Okay.
which is good because back in 2019 we were around about 20,000, which is like the last pre-COVID event. So I think we're back on a trajectory of growth now for the future, which is exciting.
I have to say a highlight that I missed in person, but still impacted me, and this is the power of music. I was up on top with Barnabas Aid in the cafe there. It was a Chris Tomlin set, and we had it on the big screen, which was great. We could see what was going on, and I was watching that, and I was enjoying it. I could hear the crowd who were, enjoying it. And then the fireworks happened, and I was found myself crying, and everybody stopped, just staring out from the top of the hill, looking down. It was just such an absolute epic finish.
Yeah, yeah, we do love our fireworks. It seems to get a bit bigger every year somehow, I think. But yeah, no, that's been really exciting. I always promised myself we'd do fireworks one year, and I waited till we had year 10 of big church because I thought we could do them in year 10, and then people wouldn't expect them every year because it was just celebrating something. But as soon as we've done them once, you know what these things are like. It's like there's just no going back. So they've remained and become like a firm, part of what wraps up the end of big church every year now. So people keeps people staying right to the end though. That's what's really good.
It was one heck of an exclamation mark to the big church. I mean, I was in tears, but at one point the sky was just white, which was
Yeah,
it was absolutely breathtaking. So it's just
brilliant.
fantastic whoever did that.
Brilliant.
And you got some big changes for next year, which are exciting. I read it and thought, I absolutely love your heart and passion. I love how you're chatting to other festivals, and you've got this vision for where you are. So we'll come back to where you are now, but what's happening next year? Because it's moving to August, isn't it?
Yeah, so the big change for us, I mean, we've been 15 years now since 2009 on the May bank holiday weekend, and we're moving the event to the August bank holiday weekend. Um, People think I only work 2 days a year as it is, and now I've got 15 months off before my next 2 days of work. So that's exciting. But yeah, there's been various things going on for us. And one of them, we've written a blog on our website. So if people want to understand more, they should really go to our website and read that blog. But it does explain around one of the things, particularly, is because we have a lot of artists that come to Big Church from America. We just can't secure any artists any longer from America because there's this huge awards thing which has been growing the last few years, now bigger than the Dove Awards. All the artists have to be there because the radio station in America runs it and they want the radio support throughout the year. So they're all turning up at that. So it kind of forces our hand to look at our dates because that event is always on the same weekend as ours. And then that window of opportunities opened up at the Whiston Estate, where we've been for 15 years, which is really our home. And we felt it's time to make a move. And then the other thing is we were aware that, in May, the event is quite inaccessible to a lot of people, particularly who have to travel further from across the UK. We know it's a stretch. We know we're in the deep south. And we know a lot of people have to put the miles in and the hours in on the motorway to come to us. And when you're in May and it's just a couple of days long, that's quite difficult when it's sort of sandwiched in the middle of term time for some people. So we think being in the summer when the kids are off school and the students are off, and we're going to extend the event to 3 days instead of 2 days. We hope that from all over the country, people think, oh, I'll jump in my car. I'll make that 5 hour trip down from Leeds or wherever, or in your case from Hull, and be worth coming down to Big Church. And I think we'll see some growth because of that. So we're super excited, and actually we've gone on sale already for 25, and we've had the biggest on sale and tickets in any year yet so far in the last month. So that's really exciting.
Which certainly points towards this being a really good idea because people want to be there. And I'm sure it's more than just that amazing firework display at the end.
Yeah, hopefully. And when the other thing we're going to do is for the first time, we're going to add in some kids work and youth work in the mornings. So we're just building teams for that. So that would be a brand new thing because we've never had a space where anyone could kind of drop the kids off or register the kids or youth in, where there's content where we're looking after them. So that's kind of a little bit of a nod, almost a little bit more towards that more traditional kind of Bible week model, but we're just going to do it for 3 mornings, just for children and young people. And then we're saying to church groups, um, if you want to do something yourself as adults, let's work together. We can help facilitate that. If you want us to put a marquee up that maybe takes 150 adults or how many you've got in your church group, or you join together with other churches and do your own program in the mornings while Big Church looks after the children and youth, then we can talk about that and we can make that happen, or just take the morning off or go for walks in the countryside and have community time and build relationship and fellowship together as adults. We don't think we're going to put in an adult program ourselves because we have such a broad and diverse collection of churchmanship at Big Church, really broad across all denominational groups. It would be really hard to create a program that really felt right for everyone. And but we are encouraging others if they want to do that from themselves to do that.
Which comes back to sort of a thing that I saw across wherever I was this idea of excellence. I saw even into simple things like some of the signs. It wasn't just someone had just written on or stuck a piece of paper on. It just felt like excellence across the board, even to those smaller details.
Well, we're trying hard. We don't get everything right, and I guess like a lot of Christian events, we just trying to do the best we can with the resources that we have. And that's always the stretch because there's always more that you want to do. And but I think getting back to what you said, that has always kind of been underpinning what we do. Now, Big Church isn't a really evangelistic space, and people are bringing their friends, and that's something we really want to encourage, and we're super excited by that. But we don't take the approach of, "Hey, let's create an evangelistic event." We create the approach of, "Let's create a great event," and we just want to we want to make it so great and such a brilliant experience for people that they just want to bring their friends. And I think when people come, the number of stories we get, people who come who are not familiar with the church world. Big Church is everything they don't expect it to be. They think it's going to be poor. They think, it's going to be a little village fete somewhere in a field with a few cucumber sandwiches, and then it's this full-on festival with 6 stages, and we've got all the flags going on, the same flags that leave us and then go to Glastonbury the next month. And like you say, all those fireworks, a huge main stage, and thousands and thousands of people. And it's just everything that people outside the church expect the church would never do. And we're just trying to do that as well as we can.
Which is something I saw because I saw so many different people. across the site as I was wandering around, and there's so many different backgrounds, and you can tell that this is a very diverse group of people. But I love that you're basically saying, "Okay, church, what do you want to do?" Rather than saying, "Here, off you go. This is what you got." I love that approach of, "Okay, how can we work together for what we're doing?" Which means it's bigger than just one event. It's bigger than just what you're doing. Actually, this is a much wider thing.
Yeah, and that's what we are trying to do. And I think we're encouraged that that's our vision. And I think it's always encouraging for us when you see the event growing on track with what your vision is. We're seeing more diversity than ever. I think we're starting to see a bit more young. We're not a youth event, but we're definitely seeing more like of that Gen Z young adult crowd coming along. In addition to the family space growing too. And we've been going so long now that some people started coming to us when they were teenagers. They're now married and got their own families, and they're still coming with their kids. So that's really exciting to see.
It was, I think, just for me, lovely to see so many different artists and different types of artists. It's not like here's your worship bit. There's so much more going on. Whether it's a spoken artists, which I never actually got to go to, which I tried to, because there's so much, and I loved that you're going to more days. Because I went to see Gordon T from Hope FM, stumbled across another stage I didn't know existed, and it is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think part of the strategy for developing, like you say, to 3 days is that is not to add in tons and tons and tons more content. It's maybe more to we might repeat a few things so that people have more opportunity just to see everything that's already going on because we realize in 2 days you can't get to everything. And that can be, that creates an intensity and an excitement, but and also frustration because there's so much to see. So I hope with a 3 day event, I think the rhythm and the and it'll take a different pace. People maybe slow down a little bit. There's a bit more time to hang out, a bit more time to see more things that are going on. And I'm really excited by what it could look like in August 25.
Which I think came out of the blog post. I read that and thought, this is really good. It got me tingling in all the good ways of you're working with other festivals, you're planning ahead. But let's just come back. So this is the Whiston Estate. Why did you start here specifically? Because you mentioned about a vision and a prophecy and stuff. For people whom maybe that's not a word they're familiar with, why are you at this particular estate?
Well, I got introduced to the family who owned the estate in 2008. And it was really, I got introduced by a friend who'd been part of back in the early 90s, back in our own church. This is even pre Delirious days. We were running a youth worship event, which used to happen every month. And it grew. And then at the end of every summer term, we used to do something on the beach in Littlehampton, which is where I still live. And we used to get over 10,000 people turn up to that. And jump forward to 2008, I met this friend and we were just reminiscing about those days in the early 90s. And we said, well, wouldn't it be amazing to do something again in our area that could gather the church and was really built around worship? And he said, well, I know the guy who owns this estate. You should go and meet him. So I got introduced, but I didn't really have a plan. And I think the owners of the estate thought, oh, gosh, this guy's going to he wants to do something on our land. And the first question they said to me was, they said, are there going to be tents at this thing? And I'm thinking, gosh, you think I want to do something like Glastonbury? We're going to come and trash your amazing, beautiful country estate. And I really didn't know what to say. And I didn't know them well enough at the time. And I just threw the question back because I had no answer. And I said, well, what would you think if that kind of thing happened here on the land? And they said, we would love that.
Oh,
And I was at that point, my attention was, completely grabbed. And then they started to explain about people giving them prophetic words about, we've had visions and dreams about seeing lots of people on your land and in that we've seen lots of tents popping up.
wow.
And you have to bear in mind this family have lived on this land for 400 years and the only thing they've ever had on the land was sheep. They've never run a single event on their land up until that time. and people started saying all this stuff to them, and they got excited about it. And I think when I have to just come along, somehow they're thinking, "Oh, is this part of that story?" And I didn't know that story at the time. So one thing led to another, and then eventually we launched what was the first event in 2009. And I can remember that very first event. One of the first things you do when you build bigger events is you put up your marquees. And we built some tents on the parkland right in front of the main house at Whiston. And Harry, the owner, just stood out on the lawn and me looked out and just started, tears in his eyes, thinking, well, I've only ever seen this in a dream.
Wow.
Now it's taking place in front of me. And, they just said, this is our land. We've got a lot of land. You just take as much land as you need and invite the church. Let's bring everyone together. Let's reach out. Let's let everybody know that they're welcome to come. And we held that first event in 2009 and just been going ever since. So it really feels like, and underpinning that, you've got a family who for generations have been praying on the land. It really has a sense of kind of the holy, this is holy ground type thing for me. And there's a lot of history there with a lot of Christians living in community on that estate and praying for it. And our nearest neighbour actually is someone that you will probably remember from the old days, Andy Piercy
I know
from
the name.
from after the fire. Andy Piercy lives in the nearest house to our main stage, literally across the road. So he has to come every year because he's going to get blasted with it anyway. So yeah, so there's a great community of Christian people living there, and we feel like God joined our hearts with what I saw as a vision of gathering the church and creating a space for unity across the church with a vision that the family had. So I mentioned this in my blog that for us, it's not really a commercial hire of a venue. This is more about God's joined hearts together here to do something what we hope is incredible for him. And that's the reason we're there. And that's the reason we feel, we should be staying where we are, even though it's in the deep south. But, Glastonbury's in the southwest and people don't moan too much. It's down there. So I'd say, make the pilgrimage, jump in the car and come on down. And the sun shines more on the set in the south.
Yeah, but it's true, isn't it? Glastonbury is not exactly, next to the M1 or the M6. It's quite a trek. It's a nightmare for
Yeah,
traveling.
it's definitely not central, is it?
No.
No, but it is where it is, and that's because that's Michael Eavis's family farm, and he had a vision for something, and he did it on his land. And he's not gone and looked and said, "Where's the best place to stick? What is the largest, music festival in the whole of the UK by a country mile? Where's the best geographic place?" He's like, "I've got a farm. Let's just invite people." And he did that there, and in this kind of similar way, this is what's happened at Whiston for our gathering.
I love how there's two. I mean, that you said at the joining of the hearts. I loved the idea that this family's been there, and what do we do with this land? Okay, they've got sheep on it, but there's more that we can do with this. What more can we do? It's where they're going to pray, and they had this vision for the tent. And as you're telling the story, I'm crying here because I can kind of feel that excitement of God's bringing people together. But I also love how one of the difficulties of being on the Maybank holiday is kind of pushing you to something. And I think that's what God does quite frequently. Something comes, it's an obstacle. Oh, this is terrible. This is dreadful. Or, wow, this is an opportunity. This is actually somewhere to stand from to do something else. Um, so yeah, I can imagine that guy standing there and looking out and just thinking, wow, this is the vision that God's given me because that's been in his mind.
Yeah, and it's exciting, isn't it? And let's see where we go next. It's risky for us. What we do is just riddled and full to the brim of risk. And this is disruptive, moving our dates from May to August. I understand that, you know, and I think there's other events on at that time, and that's not easy for them or easy for us. And they're all my mates, and there's a relationship with all those people, and we've sat down with everyone and explained this is where we're at. But it seriously got to the point of if we don't move, we're probably going to have to stop what we're doing. And I think at the end of the day, we didn't feel it was time for big church to stop. And if anything, I think it's time for us to go to the next level. So we kind of see moving to the August as big church Mark II, and let's see where it goes next.
No, I can understand that, Mark, too. We moved house. We didn't want to. We were given notice, you've got to move. We want to sell the house. This is bad. We're just trying to grow a radio station. And all of a sudden, God opens up a door to a house that we didn't ever dream of. And he's using that. So that kind of that bad situation or that hard situation or that difficult situation suddenly is becoming something much more amazing. So I see sort of a similar thing. So I understand teeny portion of some of the thoughts that you're going through. I mean, I've just moved to family. We're not talking about an entire festival, but I get some of that. Yeah, I've got to go there because if I don't, Ishmael will just shout at me again. Because he said, ask Tim about what you used to do for him long, long time ago in the Glory Company when you played keys, because, quote, he's a true genius.
Oh, no, I'm definitely not a genius, so he didn't get that bit right. But yeah, I spent many years on the road, both as the keyboard player and the driver. I spent more hours driving than I did playing keyboards. So yeah, always did a lot of the driving, seem to remember. And yeah, that was definitely a chapter of my life. And my wife, in fact, is Ishmael's niece. So it's all kept in the family.
Cool. And that's part of your story, though, isn't it? I mean, that stuff you did with Ishmael back in the day, Glory Company, Delirious, Big Church, it's all part of your story, part of your testimony of faith. But the way I didn't go last time is what is your story of faith? Are you is it church background? Is it something that sort of you have a Damascus Road experience or sort of more my
I've had a very good, a good boy Christian upbringing in a small Baptist church as a kid. My parents moved church when I was about 13, I think, 14, into kind of a charismatic church. So that was a really exciting time in my life. Um, and so, yeah, I love that because I think it was around the time when, worship was starting to become more of a thing beyond just singing hymns on a Sunday. Um, it's back in those early days of, you think even when Spring Harvest started, donkeys years ago now. I mean, they did an incredible thing back in those days. Really, one of the first places where you could have what was called a time of worship, where it was more than one song sandwiched between readings or the notices or a talk. They might string three or four songs together for 20 minutes. And and Spring Harvest was probably partly responsible for helping put a drum kit in most churches in the country 40 years ago. So, um, and it was exciting being around at that time and being involved. And so I got really excited about worship music, I think, in my teenage years. And back then, definitely felt like, well, that's just what I want to do with my life. But no one did that and earn a living doing that. And I've never done this to earn a living, but it's amazing that it's also the only job I've ever really had. So I came straight out of school. I drove buses part-time and worked with Ishmael part-time, um, and then ended up doing music full-time. And yeah, and been doing it full-time ever since.
But again, that's your story that's interwoven to all that you're doing. That the early years, I definitely remember that of we can have drums. It's not just got to be a hymn sandwich. Again, a little Baptist church, and then the Holy Spirit kind of came and it changed everything. But that's part of your story interwoven into what you're doing now. Excuse me, because now big church again, it's that same heart and passion that you had for we can do this, and it's that wanting to try to do something that others might go, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've, in some ways, God's breathing on what we're doing, and that's exciting. I have a terrible way of everything I sort of do. I don't know, it always seems to grow a bit, and I'm my own worst enemy. I've only got myself to blame. All the stress that I create and all the risk around what we do. Um, but I'm loving what we're doing, and I just think I don't think we're finished yet. I feel like big church particularly is on the edge of. I think it just needs to sit in that space where it becomes known as one of the big top 10 festivals in the UK, but it's just full of God. So people will talk about those other big festivals, the Leeds and Reading and all, some of those festivals at that kind of size, and Big Church will be one of those. And then I think I'm excited to see when people know about it more, if curiosity gets the better of people and people start coming to say, well, what does this look like when God's people meet together? And what part can that play on the landscape of even more so of what God's doing with the church in the UK? So it's exciting time.
Mm. I love that vision, and that's something I would have said from my first experience of any music festival. Greenbelt in the 80s and 90s was not a music festival. It was definitely a gathering, but it wasn't a festival. This was my first. It was spectacular. I loved being with 20,000 plus Christians, mostly, I guess, and seeing so many different bands. And again, growing up when we had the cassette tape of the next worship songs, and they were not well recorded and they were not great, to seeing stuff like Chris Tomlin or LZ7 or Harry Jabe or whatever. It's just some of that excellence that I always knew was possible when I was growing up in a church, thinking, I want to do music, but is this all we got? Hymns? Well, they're great, but there's got to be more. And yet you can come to big church and here is more than that.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think our job is just to create the space for those things. And then we just have to let God do the rest, really. So we don't want to be too prescriptive around what happens there, because there's so much going on, and obviously with so many people, God, so many people connect to God in so many different ways, whether that be on the campsite, whether that be in the worship times, whether that be in conversations, sitting in a cafe. So our job's just to create the space, and then we just let God do the rest.
Which is spot on. And I can't think of a better place to finish an interview, really. Let's create opportunities for God to do what he's got to do. So just give us the dates one more time for Big Church Festival 25.
Yeah, so we're in August. We're August 22nd to 24th and 25. And yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But if you're camping, you can come on the Thursday. So make a real holiday of it. Come down south, join the sunshine on the south coast. And if you've not been before, you've got 15 months to kind of make your plans. Plenty of time, and I look forward to see as many as people as possible in August 25.
And ticket sales already open for that.
Yeah, we're on sale. Go to it's bigchurchfestival.com. Find everything there. And got a lot of people already booked in, which is exciting.
Fabulous. Tim, thank you for your time. I just wanted to look back a little bit. I know we only spoke like not long ago, but I wanted to look sort of post big church, and then there were the changes. And I thought, well, what a great opportunity to share some of your heart. And thank you for doing that. Especially
Great.
for me, the vision of why are you at Whiston? Why are we in the South? And I'm so honoured that you've shared some of that. So thank you, Tim, for your time, and particularly that part.
Brilliant. Great to chat.
Bye for now.